In the war-torn city of Moise, within the kill zone, a colossal dragon dominated the sky, unleashing torrents of destructive flame that incinerated everything below. Buildings were swallowed by the inferno as civilians fled in a panic-stricken exodus. The players on the front lines could only stare in awe, wondering why it had appeared so suddenly. Then, one of them recognized the figure on the dragon's back, White Knight, the lone player who had crossed national borders. Zichuan, the guild master of the Wild Soul Guild, gasped. "The gap in power is just too immense," he muttered. "Is this the true strength of the Divine Dragon Empire's #1 player?" They all knew the city of Mipus wouldn't last. No one could believe a single player was capable of such horrifying devastation. The truth was finally laid bare. The rider on the dragon was the necromancer, White Knight. In their eyes, he was no longer a player, but a terrifying monster. He then unleashed his legion of the undead, commanding them to devour everything and absorb its power. Yet even then, he whispered to himself that his strength still wasn't enough. He cherished this new life, a gift from the game Myriad World's hegemony. His goal was simple: to become stronger. After all, he had once been left with a single point of health and less than a year to live. He had stood at death's door, yet somehow, he had survived and clawed his way to this pinnacle. A few months ago, on Blue Star, inside a hospital room, a man named Sun Bai lay on a bed, his body tethered to life support machines. A woman stood beside him, her hands moving over the equipment as she spoke with chilling indifference. "If you die, you better not come back to haunt me." Bai instantly recognized the voice. Liu Wan. Though his body was paralyzed, his mind was sharp. He wondered why they were unplugging his life support while he was still alive, especially since she was his fiancée. But Liu Wan calmly replied that he was no different from a dead man, and she was simply helping him along. The irony of his situation was so cruel it was almost laughable. He had been the #1 gamer on Blue Star, a man with a multi-billion-dollar fortune. But after a horrific accident, he had been reduced to a vegetative state. Now, he could hear everything around him, but couldn't move so much as a finger. He couldn't accept this fate. He didn't understand how it had all come to this. Suddenly, a blond man burst into the room, demanding to know why Liu Wan was hesitating. It was Xiao Xu, Bai's college friend. He sneered, "Don't tell me you've actually fallen for him, and now you can't bring yourself to do it." The words struck Bai like a physical blow. He couldn't understand why Xiao Xu was here. Xiao Xu then pointed out that with Bai's parents already gone, his death would make Liu Wan the sole heir to his entire fortune. Only then did the horrifying truth crash down upon Sun Bai. The two of them had been seeing each other behind his back for a long time. Xiao Xu pulled Liu Wan into his arms, smugly revealing that 5 years ago, he had been the one to arrange for her to get close to Bai. It had all been part of a plan leading to this very moment. Liu Wan replied coldly, "It's your fault for not finishing the job in that car crash. It's cost us this much trouble." Doubt and agony flooded Bai's mind. Since their college days, he had treated them like family, a brother, and a lover he could trust with his life. Xiao Xu admitted he never expected Bai to survive such a brutal crash. "But today," he said, "not even God can save you." He stepped forward and ripped the oxygen mask from Bai's face. He then started to make a move on Liu Wan, but she stopped him. "Not now. We're about to move rooms, and doing that in front of a dying man is bad luck." Laughing, Fashi swept her up and who was almost like a apprentice. "Don't worry," he warned. "I'll deal with you properly later." She pouted, calling him a bad boy. Meanwhile, Sun Bai's mind remained crystal clear, but his body was shutting down, starving for air. He finally understood the cruel reality. From the day they met, those two had been plotting his demise. Even so, he desperately tried to move, to fight back. He refused to die such a pointless, tragic death. He couldn't believe his life would end this way. No matter what, he would not give up. Suddenly, a mysterious portal materialized from the void. The bizarre sight shocked everyone on the planet. Some thought it was the beginning of an alien invasion. Then, a voice boomed, announcing that Blue Star had been chosen to participate in the game of Myriad World's hegemony. All participants would start from scratch, and be given a new life. The mass transference would begin in 30 seconds. Simultaneously, information about the game flooded directly into everyone's minds. Data on Myriad World's hegemony materialized in their thoughts, and they quickly realized this was real. A woman worriedly wondered what kind of game this was. A man nearby sneered that the truly worried ones were the rich and powerful, because this game had no pay-to-win system. Back in the hospital, Liu Wan and Xiao Xu were on the bed when the announcement screen appeared. Liu Wan panicked, saying she didn't know how to play games, and that fighting alien races sounded incredibly dangerous. Xiao Xu was furious. He complained that he had been just one step away from becoming a billionaire, and now none of his real-world assets could be brought into the game. Li Yuan suddenly remembered something. As long as a person was still breathing, they could enter Myriad World's hegemony. She wondered if Mu Bai would make it. Even if he lasts another 30 seconds, a man in his state will just enter the game as a useless cripple. Just then, the countdown hit 0. The transference began. Mu Bai was still alive. To him, this felt like a final chance granted by the heavens. He refused to die here. He would not give up. As the transference started, streams of light flew toward the portal. Some people were dragged away screaming, terrified of leaving their homes, while others welcomed the change with excitement, ready for a new life. In the Temple of the Descenders, it was Mu Bai. He quickly realized this wasn't a dream. He could stand again. A system voice welcomed the players from Blue Star to Myriad World's hegemony, and began scanning his body data. Upon entering the game, he was granted the status of a Descender and prompted to register a name. Mu Bai was overcome with emotion. The feeling of being alive again was incredible. He chose the name White Knight. Registration was successful, and his starting talent was awakened. All players awakened a talent in the Astral Hall upon entering the game. Talents were divided into 9 ranks, from the lowest rank to the highest as rank. Anyone hoping to rise in this world needed a powerful talent. White Knight could only hope his luck wasn't too terrible. To his astonishment, his luck was anything but. He had awakened a Forbidden's rank talent as Sanshin. Even he hadn't expected to get something so powerful. The talent had 3 effects. 1. Upgrade permanently raises an item by 1 tier, free of cost. 2. Sublimate consumes resources to permanently raise an item by 2 tiers. 3. Metamorphosis consumes lifespan to raise an item by 3 tiers and add a special metamorphosis effect. Fortunately, the first use of metamorphosis was free. The basic classes were divided into 4 main types: physical, magical, defensive, and support. White Knight wondered if he should become a warrior or a mage, but the system then scanned his initial stats and announced they didn't meet the requirements. Several classes were immediately grayed out. White Knight was confused. A moment later, the system revealed the results. Based on his initial stats, the only class available to him was Necromancer. The system auto-assigned it. In other words, he never had a choice. Still, becoming a Necromancer wasn't the worst outcome. But then he noticed something strange. His health was permanently fixed at 1 heat. He stared in horror, realizing he was literally a one-hit wonder. A single attack would kill him. To make matters worse, his remaining lifespan was only 1 year. In that moment, this rank talent suddenly felt like a cruel joke. However, he had no choice but to go all in. After all, he had just awakened the Ascension talent. So, he decided to upgrade his class. Upgrading the Necromancer class by 3 tiers would normally cost 100 years of lifespan. Luckily, he still had his 1 free use of the metamorphosis effect. Without hesitation, he confirmed the upgrade. The system immediately congratulated him on evolving into an exclusive hidden class Death Lord. His stat growth changed, and he would now receive 15 free attribute points per level. He also learned 2 new skills, Lifelink and Summon Amplification. On top of that, he received an exclusive item, the Tome of Death. His hidden class now possessed a powerful metamorphosis trait. White Knight couldn't help but feel satisfied with the result. Just then, the system announced that Myriad World's hegemony would officially begin in 10 seconds and advised all players to prepare. White Knight realized he had spent nearly all his time experimenting with his talent. Then he thought of Liu Wan and Xiaoshu. He swore to himself that one day, he would find that treacherous pair and make them experience true despair. The countdown ended. Welcome to Myriad World's hegemony. When a player died, they would lose a level and 10 of their lifespan, with a minimum loss of 10 years per death. However, under the protection of the Novice Village, death only resulted in level loss, not a reduction in lifespan. The players of Blue Star were welcomed into the game. They were transported to Novice Village 9527 of the Divine Dragon Empire. The system wished them a safe journey ahead. Many were thrilled. The fantasy worlds they had only read about in novels had finally become a reality. Players quickly began forming parties, preparing to explore together. Meanwhile, White Knight decided to test his skills at the village gate first. He summoned a small skeleton. It was a level 1 rank summon, a flimsy skeleton that fought for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 20 mana. Its stats scaled with the player's spirit attribute. He also had an active skill, Ignite, another level 1 rank skill. It unleashed a soul flame that burned a target, dealing 150 of his magic power as damage over 5 seconds. Range 30. Cast time 2s. Cooldown 5s. Non-cost 10. White Knight felt pleased. At least he had a summon and an attack skill to start with. In addition, he had Life Link, a level 1 active skill. It allowed him to link with a summoned undead and share its health pool. The skill was instant cast with a 10-second cooldown. He also had Summon Amplification, a level less rank passive skill. It reduced summon cast time by 50, reduced summon cooldown by 50, and increased the stats of summoned creatures by a massive 500. White Knight found it amusing that he already had a rank and its rank skill right from the start. With Life Linked, he could share health with his summons, meaning his own load might not be a major issue. But then, something unexpected appeared. The Tome of Death. This item was exclusive to the Death Lord class and was his unique offhand item. It couldn't be dropped, damaged, or traded. The book was currently at level 0, and its stats would unlock upon reaching level 1. Special effects would unlock at level 10. It was described as a book of laws that only White Knight could read. Once he met the requirements, he could learn exclusive Death Lord skills from it. Since the book currently had no stats, he figured it would only be useful after level 10. For now, he decided not to worry about it and focused on testing his summons. He cast the small skeleton summon again, but this time, 2 skeletons appeared at once. The system immediately informed him that his metamorphosis trait had activated. Due to the effects of the Death Lord class, all his skill effects were doubled. However, the second and third effects of the class remained locked until he reached a higher level. Though 2 skeletons appeared, they still looked rather flimsy. Just then, another player noticed him summoning them. Seeing 2 appear at once, the player assumed White Knight must have at least a rank talent. He approached and offered to team up. Since he also had an Aminus talent, he believed they could level up much faster together, but White Knight refused. He said he preferred to grind alone. He then turned and walked away. The man immediately felt insulted and shouted after him, telling him not to pretend to be some powerful summoner when he probably couldn't even kill a stray chicken. Nubaya walked into the forest and saw a party struggling to kill a single stray chicken. The tank was regretting his class choice, complaining that the stupid chicken was too strong. The vanguard told him to stop whining and just kill it. The mage muttered that the chicken's attack was actually higher than his. At this point, a level 0 player was weaker than a level 1 chicken. One of them got fed up and said he was going back to the village to pick up a lifestyle profession. If anyone enjoyed fighting something like that, they could handle it themselves. The level 1 stray chicken had 100-108, 10 attack, 5 physical defense, and 5 magic defense. White Knight walked past them with his 2 small skeletons, and the group immediately took notice. His summons looked quite strong, so they whispered among themselves that he must have awakened a powerful talent. Naturally, they started to feel jealous. One of the party members quickly told them to stop staring and focus on killing the chicken. White Knight calmly said he wouldn't steal their monster. With his overpowered class skills, killing a chicken truly felt like using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. Just then, he noticed a nearby bush rustling. Suddenly, 2 rabbits leaped out. They were level 2 red-eyed rabbits, with 150, 15 attack, 7 physical defense, and 7 magic defense. These creatures leaped straight for a man's vitals. White Knight immediately realized getting hit by that would hurt. The rabbits charged and attacked the skeletons, dealing 13 to 15 damage. White Knight felt a sense of relief that he didn't have to fight them himself. Since no one else was around, he decided to summon a few more skeletons and properly test their strength. He ordered them to go all out. The skeletons rushed forward and hacked at the red-eyed rabbits with their swords. Soon, one of the rabbits fell. White Knight received a 50-level GEP experience bonus and earned 3 XP. The growth rate seemed decent. At this pace, reaching level 1 wouldn't take long. He checked his status. His health was still 1-1. But thanks to Life Link, one skeleton now had 400 hit, while the second had 393 The doubling effect was impressive. By linking with 2 skeletons at once, he was no longer a one-shot kill. However, he knew he shouldn't attract too much attention. For now, summoning too many skeletons would be suspicious. 4 would be enough. With that decided, White Knight continued grinding. He sent his 4 small skeletons to fight the nearby monsters. Before long, a group of players noticed him and started staring. To them, it looked like White Knight was leveling up by taking a casual stroll. It was just too convenient. One of the players, also a summoner, complained that his own summons looked nothing like those skeletons. Another guessed that White Knight must have at least rank talent to control 4 summons at once. A curly-haired guy even said, White Knight's strength is probably already near the top of Novice Village 9527. Just then, the system announced that White Knight had leveled up. His 4 basic stats each increased by 1, and he received 1 skill point along with 15 free attribute points. Finally reaching level 1 felt quite satisfying. He opened his character sheet and thought about his stats. Since his summons scaled with spirit, he definitely needed to invest in it. But with only 1 eat, having more agility could save his life in a pinch. After some thought, he put 4 points into agility and 11 into spirit. Since his talent could upgrade everything, he decided to upgrade his skills. He told the system to upgrade them directly. Upgrade successful. His rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, was upgraded to an A rank skill, Summon Skeleton. His rank skill, Ignite, was also upgraded to a rank. Meanwhile, his A rank skill, Lifelink, evolved into its rank skill Life Resonance. The new A rank Summon Skeleton skill allowed him to summon a skeleton warrior with a 3-second cast time, 30-second cooldown, and 40 mana cost, with its stats scaling with his spirit. As for Ignite, it now dealt 200 of his magic power as damage over 5 seconds with the same 30 range, 2-second cast time, and 5-second cooldown, costing 20 mana. At the same time, a new passive skill appeared. Death's Beckoning, a level less, S-rank passive skill. Its effects were powerful with summoning skill cast time reduced by 75. 2. Summoning cooldown reduced by 75. 3. Stats of summoned creatures increased by 100. 4. Summon space capacity double. White Knight couldn't help but remark that Life Resonance was truly worthy of its rank. By passively sharing his health with all his summons, his effective health pool skyrocketed. While he technically still had only 1/8, his shared health now amounted to nearly 9-0. And with Death's Beckoning, he could summon up to 20 skeleton warriors. At this point, he didn't need to hold back anymore. He intended to max out his summon space and grind aggressively. Since he had already upgraded his skills, there was no reason not to upgrade his exclusive equipment. The system announced that the upgrade was successful. His exclusive item, the Tomb of Death, had evolved into the Deathly Codex. The item was still exclusive to White Knight. It couldn't be dropped, damaged, or traded, and could be freely summoned or recalled. At level 1, it followed the character and provided 15 magic power, with additional special effects unlocking at level 10. However, White Knight felt a little disappointed. The only current reward was 50 magic power, so he decided to focus on leveling until he hit level 10. With that decision made, the real grind began. He sent more skeletons charging forward. After all, the more the merrier. This time, their target was a fox monster. White Knight tried summoning all 20 skeletons. Thanks to Death's Beckoning reducing the cooldown by 75, combined with his metamorphosis trait, each skeleton now took only about 2 seconds to summon. The skeletons continued hunting level 3 Demon Claw Cats, receiving a 50 level gap bonus and 5x each time. White Knight was delighted with his leveling speed. Soon, the system announced he had reached level 2. His 4 stats each increased by 1, and he also received 1 skill point and 15 free attribute points. He simply ordered his skeletons to continue the grind. About half an hour later, he arrived at a strange rock formation that looked like a portal. This place was the entrance to the first dungeon, the Misty Woods. The Misty Woods was known to hold precious treasures, but at the same time, it was filled with danger. The system asked if he was sure he wanted to challenge the dungeon alone. White Knight confirmed without hesitation. After all, he had plenty of little brothers following him. Next, he was asked to choose the dungeon's difficulty. The options appeared easy, normal, hard, nightmare, and hell. Without much thought, he chose hell difficulty and stepped through the portal. White Knight entered the hell difficulty Misty Woods. The fog was so thick he could barely see the path ahead. He ordered his army to find a way through and clear out the monsters. Fortunately, he could freely control his summons within a 100-meter radius. Otherwise, he might have been worried about his skeletons getting lost in the mist. Soon, one of his skeletons encountered a monster, a Misty Trant, a level 8 elite creature with 603, 608, 74 attack, 60 physical defense, 40 magic defense, and the skill Bind. White Knight felt a jolt of excitement as soon as he saw it. Finally, a real target. He immediately ordered his minions to attack in unison. The Misty Trant retaliated by using Bind. Thick vines wrapped around a skeleton and tore off its arm. White Knight noted that an elite monster's attack power was certainly no joke. But even so, it couldn't stand against the sheer numbers of his minions. He ordered all the skeletons to focus their attacks on it. Soon, the system announced the result. After killing the level 8 elite Misty Trent, he received a 50 level gap bonus and earned 60 XP. The Misty Woods was originally a level 5 dungeon, but hell difficulty had increased the monster levels by 3, and turned them all into elites. The experience gain was truly impressive. Just then, White Knight sensed movement behind him. A snake suddenly swung down from a branch. He quickly jumped to the side to dodge its attack. The creature was a Misty Vine Python. Another level 8 elite monster with 303 108 attack, 52 physical defense, 30 magic defense, and the skill Constrict. These pythons specialized in squeezing their prey. White Knight raised his staff and shot a stream of green fire at it. The attack dealt 98 and 101 damage. Immediately after, the skeleton swarmed in. The Misty Vine Python quickly fell. The system announced that he had defeated a level 8 elite Misty Vine Python, receiving another 50 level gap bonus and 60 XP. Although White Knight's spirit attribute was already 3 times higher than a normal necromancer's, his spells still didn't deal as much damage as his skeleton army. The monster dropped some loot: a Vine Python belt, a level 5 piece of leather armor. It was black iron quality, 30/30 durability, 8 armor, and 2 constitution. When worn, it looked like a giant python wrapped around the waist. White Knight let out a small sigh. It was a shame it was leather armor, which he couldn't use. Still, it was worth keeping to sell for money later. With that done, he continued forward with his bone army. Monsters started lurking in the surrounding fog, which meant for White Knight, it was harvest time. His minions swarmed and attacked Misty Trents and Misty Vine Pythons at the same time. It quickly turned into a chaotic yet organized mess. Soon, the system announced that White Knight had reached level 5. His 4 stats each increased by 1, and he received 1 skill point along with 15 free attribute points. White Knight had leveled up yet again. During the grind, he received several item drops: black iron equipment, a wooden staff, a snake fang dagger, Vine Python leather armor, and 2 rank skill books, Bind and Constrict. The staff was usable for now, but the rest weren't very helpful. He decided he would upgrade them later and sell them off. Looking at his status panel, he was now level 5 with the Necromancer class. His stats were 51 agility, 108 spirit, 118 dex, 486, 480 mana, and 409 magic power. His exclusive forbidden talent was Ascension. His class skills included Summon Skeleton Rang, Ignite Rang, Life Resonance Rang, and Death Beckoning Rang. His summon space was at 1020. His weapon was the wooden staff. His exclusive class item was the Deathly Codex, and his remaining lifespan was still less than a year. The staff stats were quite weak, so he would need a better weapon later. Then he noticed something interesting. His Deathly Codex had also leveled up. It was an exclusive class item that couldn't be dropped, damaged, or traded. Its base stats now provided 75 magic power, 25 to all stats, and 100 damage to undead creatures. Even his own summoned skeletons received this buff. Additional special effects would unlock when the item reached level 10. The book was described as a rule book, one that only he could read. Once he met certain conditions, he could learn exclusive Death Lord skills from it. White Knight felt quite pleased with this reward. He gathered all his skeletons and prepared for the next battle. With his current equipment and strength, he believed he was ready to challenge the boss. So, they moved deeper into the dungeon. Soon, they encountered a silver quality boss along with 2 enhanced elite guards. White Knight couldn't help but think that hell difficulty truly lived up to its name. The boss was the Misty Vine Python King, a level 8 silver quality monster with 88, 0 to 88, 0 to 327 attack, 136 physical defense, 88 magic defense, and several skills: Constrict, Swallow, Poison Spray, and Earthquake. Beside it were 2 Misty Vine Python guards, level 8 enhanced elite monsters, each with 8, 350, 198 attack, 72 physical defense, 60 magic defense, and the skill Constrict. White Knight studied the situation carefully. The boss alone had over 80, 08, and it was protected by 2 guards. For a moment, he wondered if his skeleton army could actually handle it, but in the end, he decided to just give it a try. So, he ordered his minions to charge. His army rushed forward, but the Misty Vine Python King suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed one of the skeletons whole. White Knight immediately realized the boss's attack power was truly terrifying. However, even if its damage was high, he believed it couldn't stand against his sea of skeletons tactic. Soon, 2 more skeletons appeared. He ordered his minions to hack at it relentlessly. The skeleton army quickly took care of the Mystivine Python guards. Each guard killed granted him a 50-level gap bonus and 180 experience points. With the guards out of the way, he ordered all his brothers to focus their fire on the boss. The skeletons attacked the Python King's head, which only made it even more furious. White Knight felt a bit disappointed looking at his own damage numbers. Compared to his skeletons, his attacks looked almost embarrassing. The boss turned its attention to the skeleton. It swallowed another one, killing it instantly. It then slammed its massive body around, tearing through more skeletons. White Knight sensed something dangerous. It looked like the boss was about to use one of its major skills. Suddenly, the Python King spat out a cloud of green, poisonous mist. White Knight was startled. He hadn't expected the boss to aim directly at him. The mist rushed toward him and obscured his vision, but White Knight took the attack head-on. Thanks to life resonance, his total health now exceeded 100. Compared to that, this little bit of damage was nothing. He then counterattacked. Green flames erupted in his hands as he charged forward. He repeatedly used Ignite while his skeleton army continued to hack at the boss from all sides. Under the relentless assault, the giant creature finally fell. The system announced that he had defeated the level 8 silver quality boss, the Mystivine Python King. He received a 50 experience bonus and earned 400 experience points. White Knight was pleased with how smoothly the battle went. Then another notification popped up. The system congratulated him for becoming the first player in Novice Village 9527 to solo kill a boss. His reward was a primary soul stone and 1 gold coin. Another announcement followed right after. He was also the first player in Novice Village 9527 to solo kill a silver quality boss. This achievement granted him an additional reward of 5 primary soul stones and 5 gold coins. The system made a village-wide announcement in Novice Village 9527. It declared that White Knight had become the first player to solo kill a silver quality boss. The announcement encouraged all players to learn from him so they could also receive handsome rewards. The other players couldn't believe their eyes. Some were curious about who White Knight was and what kind of monstrous talent he had awakened. Most of them assumed his talent must be S rank or even S rank. Otherwise, there was no way someone could solo kill a silver quality boss this early. One player was angry about the huge gap between them. Another complained that Myriad World's hegemony was too unbalanced. They said they could only defeat small monsters, yet this guy was already soloing bosses. Another sighed and said he never expected to become cannon fodder after transmigrating. From another group, a woman had just learned that solo killing a boss would trigger a system announcement. If she had known sooner, she would have let Fenjie Xiao solo that Black Iron boss. Her teammate replied that it didn't matter since there would be plenty of opportunities later. The man who had just replied to her was Fenjie Xiao himself. He said that this White Knight was stronger than him. He admitted that a silver quality boss was still too much for him to handle at the moment. The woman, named Richie, pointed out that he had awakened in S-rank talent. Yet this White Knight was somehow even stronger than him. It made her wonder if White Knight's talent was actually S-rank. Fenjie Xiao replied that it was highly likely. Oh wait, their Tang suggested inviting White Knight to join their team. Totman Kinti, a mage who looked like a child, knew just how terrifying Insa's rank talent could be. She wondered if White Knight would agree to join them. Richie confidently said she would give it a try anyway. After all, no man had ever refused her invitation. Meanwhile, White Knight suddenly received a flood of friend requests. He had no idea why so many had appeared so suddenly. He didn't have time to deal with all of them, so he decided to reject them. He then took out a primary soul stone, a special item. After absorbing it, it increased lifespan by 30 days. However, if he died, he would lose 1/10 of that lifespan with a minimum loss of 3 days. He was surprised to see an item that could actually increase lifespan. He decided to upgrade the stones first. After doing so, he received an intermediate soul stone. This special item increased lifespan by 120 days when absorbed. If he died, he would lose 1/10 of that lifespan with a minimum loss of 12 days. He was glad the upgrade had been a success. 6 intermediate stones would be equivalent to almost 2 years of lifespan. Getting so much free lifespan was addictive. Now he wanted to collect even more soul stones. The 2 skill books he received weren't useful to him. As for the equipment pieces, only the poison ring was of some use, so he decided to upgrade it. The upgrade was a success, and he received a venom serpent ring. It was gold quality. 100 durability, and gave 30 magic power, 10 agility, and 10 spirit. Magic skills now had a chance to inflict 150 poison damage, triggering at most once every 10 seconds. He liked that it had both magic and poison attributes. If his attack wasn't enough, the poison would finish the job. He then noticed how many skeletons had died just to fight one novice boss. It made him realize something important. His skeletons were simply not strong enough. Now that he had some gold coins, he considered sublimating his summon skeleton skill to upgrade it further. He chose to upgrade it. The options were a 1-tier upgrade, a 2-tier sublimate, and a 3-tier metamorphosis. Without hesitation, he chose sublimate. The system announced that it would cost 5 gold coins to overwrite the previous upgrade effects and sublimate the skill. It was expensive, but he knew he could earn more gold later. So, he proceeded with the sublimation. The system then announced that his rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, had successfully evolved into a D-rank skill, Summon Skeleton Soldier. This level 6 rank active skill allowed him to summon either a skeleton warrior or a skeleton archer to fight for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 200 mana. The skeleton stats would scale with the player's spirit attribute. He was very pleased with the skeleton archers. Those 5 gold coins suddenly felt like a great investment, so he summoned them immediately. The skeleton archer had 637 strength, 637 constitution, 637 agility, and 370 health points with 319 physical defense. It possessed a skill called Double Arrow. At a rank level 6, it could fire 2 arrows instantly, hitting the target twice. Each arrow dealt 90 physical damage with a 30-second cooldown. Since it was converted to an archer class, its agility bonus was significantly increased. Meanwhile, the skeleton warrior had 637 strength, constitution, and agility with 956 attack and 319 physical defense. It possessed the skill Heavy Strike. At a rank level 6, it swung its weapon to deliver a heavy blow, dealing 175 physical damage, also with a 30-second cooldown. As a warrior class, its strength bonus was significantly increased. Now he could finally say that his summons had decent stats. Feeling satisfied, he ordered his minions to continue exploring. They fanned out across the forest. Soon, a level 8 elite goblin appeared. It had 800 health points, 96 attack, 58 physical defense, 45 magic defense, and a skill called Throw. He immediately ordered his ranged units to focus their fire on one target first. The arrows flew straight into the goblin's face. The monster fell instantly. White Knight received another 50 experience bonus along with 60 experience points. He quickly noticed how much faster his farming speed had become. It was clear that he needed to move to a higher level area now if he wanted better returns. Meanwhile, back in the village, players were busy recruiting members for their parties. Someone suddenly approached them. The man announced that he was preparing to form the Dominion Guild. He invited them to join him, so they could explore myriad worlds hegemony together. The players immediately felt insulted. This guy had just entered the game and was already recruiting people to work for him, even though he was a nobody. The man calmly explained that he possessed an rank talent called Natural Leader. This talent allowed him to establish a guild for free. Guild members would receive a 20 experience bonus, a 20 monster drop rate bonus, and a 20 attack and magic power bonus, and the stronger the guild, the greater the buffs. Hearing this, many players became interested. The ability sounded extremely powerful. Some quickly said they wanted to join. The man told them not to rush and to join one by one, but their conversation was suddenly interrupted when they received a server-wide pinned message. The sender was Richie, and the message was addressed to White Knight. She asked him to accept her friend request as she had something important to discuss. When the players saw this, they immediately started complaining. One of them grumbled that he had been grinding his butt off to kill dozens of monsters and still didn't even have 100 copper coins. Yet this big spender was casually dropping 10 gold coins just to send a message. Everyone was curious about who this person was. After all, sending a server-wide pinned message cost 10 gold coins, a crazy amount of money at this stage. The commotion quickly spread throughout the village. Some wondered if Richie was really that rich. The man who had been planning to form a guild also began to wonder where she got so much gold. At the same time, he was also curious about White Knight. The name alone made him want to see just how strong this person really was. White Knight saw the message. Since Richie had spent 10 gold coins just to find him, it was clear she had a lot of money. So, he decided to meet her. After they became friends, Richie immediately invited him to join her party. She promised to take care of all his equipment and skills, plus a 100 gold coin advance. Getting 100 gold coins right off the bat sounded extremely generous. White Knight couldn't help but wonder how she was so rich when everyone had just left the novice village. So, he asked her why he should trust her. She replied that money was just a number to her. As long as he signed a contract to join her team, there would be plenty of money waiting for him. And if he still didn't believe her, he just had to look at her cis-rank exclusive skill, Midas Touch. This talent had 3 effects. 1. Money Tree allowed her to shake a money tree once a day and receive a random amount of 1 to 999 gold coins, with a chance to get a special treasure. 2. Rolling Fortune would increase the total amount of money she carried by 1 every day. 3. Order she would not drop gold, coins, or items upon death. After hearing all that, White Knight realized that this Midas Touch talent was simply broken. With this talent, making money was as easy as lying down and printing it. But teaming up sounded troublesome to him, and it would also make it easier for others to discover his secrets. He decided to forget it. In the early stages, leveling up alone felt much safer, so he replied that he preferred to act alone. Richie felt offended that he dared to reject her. Fenjie Xiao asked her if White Knight had refused to join them. She replied that White Knight preferred to act alone. Away suggested they just forget about him since they could grind on their own. Cotton Candy replied that it was possible, but without good equipment, their grinding speed would be much slower. But then Richie noticed that White Knight had sent another message. White Knight was proposing a trade. She asked for more details, and he explained that he had some unused equipment and skill books that her team might need, and he was willing to sell them. She asked him how much he wanted since she planned to buy everything. White Knight replied that the value would be greater than she could imagine. He said he would let her know when he was done with his current business. She simply replied that she would wait for him. She then told Fenjie Xiao that he would have top-tier equipment soon. Awei was happy to hear that since strong equipment would significantly increase their grinding speed. Their group soon encountered a wild boar chi. It was a level 5 bronze quality boss with 800 health points, 205 attack, 81 physical defense, 62 magic defense, and skills like Gore, Savage Charge, and Wild Stomp. Richie asked Fenjie Xiao if he was confident he could solo it. He replied that it wasn't a problem. She told everyone to give their healing potions to Fenjie Xiao. She then instructed him to leave the party. Awei was ordered to stand guard and make sure no one interfered with Fenjie Xiao. Their goal was simple: to claim the system announcement. They then told Fenjie Xiao to go. He charged in. The wild boar chief attacked, dealing -986 damage. Fenjie Xiao dodged behind it and launched his attack. The wild boar chief swung its spiky back at him. He said the monster was quite strong, but not fast enough. Richie commented that Fenjie Xiao had a lot of combat experience, so soloing the boss shouldn't be a problem. Meanwhile, White Knight had killed a level 8 silver quality boss, the Goblin Chieftain, receiving another 50 experience bonus and 400 experience points. Having such a large group of minions was incredibly convenient. He could move through the misty woods with almost no resistance. The system announced that he had reached level 6, receiving 1 to all 4 stats and 15 free attribute points. The only thing he could complain about was that picking up all the loot was a hassle. One of the items he picked up was a reinforced bone shield, but with life resonance. The skill was useless to him. The Misty Cloak had a hate reduction effect, but it was frankly too ugly to wear. It was level 5, gold quality equipment, with 100 durability, 28 physical defense, 20 magic defense, 10 constitution, and 10 spirit. After equipping it, it slightly reduced the user's presence, lowering the chance of drawing monster aggro. Another item caught his attention, a badge with great stats. It was level 5, gold quality equipment, 100 durability. It increased health by 200, mana by 400, and magic crit rate by 5. Every time his spells landed a critical hit, he would receive a buff that increased spirit by 20 for 10 seconds. Although the effect didn't stack, he equipped it immediately. Suddenly, a skeleton ran toward him. It looked heavily wounded, and had lost a significant amount of health. He wondered what had caused the Goblin King's territory to appear. The system suddenly sent another announcement. A large number of skeleton soldiers had made the Goblin King recall long-buried memories, triggering a hidden plot. The Goblin King had entered a frenzied state, increasing all its stats by 50. The exit of the Misty Woods had been sealed, and the only way to leave the dungeon was to kill the Goblin King. To complete the hidden plot, he had to kill the Goblin King within 2 minutes. White Knight quickly summoned more skeletons to prepare for the battle. The Goblin King roared in anger that someone dared to invade its territory. It declared it would smash his rotten skeletons to pieces. Regu the Goblin King was now in a special state. All stats increased by 50. It was a level 8 gold quality boss with 286, 218, 327, 0 health points, 843 attack, 312 physical defense, and 270 magic defense. Its skills included Thunder Strike, Stomp, Heroically, Summon Goblin Warrior, and Frenzy. Regu's long-buried painful memories had driven it into a rage. The system note added that even if White Knight died and revived, Regu would continue to hunt him. White Knight knew that killing it within 2 minutes would be difficult, especially with over 300 health points. The boss had a massive health pool, but White Knight knew one important thing: it still couldn't stand against the sheer numbers of his minions, so there was no reason he couldn't beat it. The Goblin King charged toward the filthy, rotten bones. It growled that just the smell of them made it want to puke. White Knight admitted that the boss dealt serious damage. A normal level 5 player would have been killed instantly. Too bad for the boss, it had run into him. The Goblin King roared in frustration when it realized he had managed to sneak close to it. Meanwhile, the skeleton archers continued firing arrows and dealing steady damage. The Goblin King finally decided to target the archers. And that was exactly what White Knight wanted. The Goblin King then summoned the warriors of its race, ordering them to smash those filthy skeletons to pieces for their king. Goblin warriors began pouring out of a portal. They were also in a frenzied state, with all stats increased by 50. Each had 513, 500 health points, 279 attack, 105 physical defense, and 93 magic defense. Their skill was Power Strike. White Knight was a little surprised. He could see that this fight was about to get complicated. The Goblin King was getting more and more furious with this necromancer. White Knight had wiped out many of its tribes in the Misty Woods, and the king had no intention of letting him get away. It roared and ordered its warriors to crush him and his minions. The Goblin King slammed its weapon on the ground, creating a powerful shockwave. Fortunately, White Knight managed to dodge to the side in time. Still, he complained that the hit was quite painful. It was a good thing he was sharing his health with his minions, so the damage wasn't too dangerous. He quickly summoned more skeletons and ordered them to deal with the small goblins first. The skeletons rushed in and started cutting down more goblin warriors. He then ordered his skeleton archers to rain arrows down on them. The Goblin King watched as more of its soldiers fell, but it refused to be defeated. It roared that it would never be a slave again. Just then, Regu the Goblin King entered a frenzy state. Its attack power increased by 50, attack speed increased by 50, but both its physical and magic defense were reduced by 50. White Knight just looked at the raging boss and called it an immature. Suddenly, a system announcement rang out. Fenjie Xiao had become the first player to solo kill a bronze quality boss. White Knight realized the first kill announcement had been snatched away, but he didn't let it bother him. He wasn't going to miss out on the big prize for a small title. Instead, he ordered all his skeletons to charge at once. Their overwhelming numbers finally brought down the Goblin King. The system announced that he had killed the level 8 gold quality boss, Regu the Goblin King, receiving another 50 experience bonus and 200 experience points. With that, he reached level 7, receiving 1 to all 4 stats, 1 skill point, and 15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in Novice Village 9527 to solo kill a gold quality boss. His reward was 12 primary soul stones and 12 gold coins. He looked around for any item drops, but strangely, there was nothing. Meanwhile, a man in full plate armor had just received a treasure that increased lifespan. His guild members quickly flattered him, saying he was the #1 expert in Novice Village 9527. Suddenly, a system announcement appeared. Fenjie Xiao had become the first player to solo kill a bronze quality boss. One of his guild members immediately said Fenjie Xiao must have just gotten lucky. The man in armor declared that he would find a gold quality boss himself to prove who the real expert was. Just then, another announcement appeared, this time saying that White Knight had become the first player to solo kill a gold quality boss. The man in full plate armor frowned and wondered if White Knight had awakened Incest rank talent. On the other side of the forest, Fenjie Xiao remarked that White Knight was truly terrifying. Richie told him it was fine. Nereid World's hegemony had just begun, so there was still plenty of time to catch up. Fenjie Xiao then told the group they should go check out the first dungeon now. Back with White Knight, the system announced that since he had killed Regu the Goblin King within 2 minutes, He had successfully triggered the hidden plot called Regu's Nightmare, and the difficulty of the Misty Woods dungeon had been raised to disaster level, even higher than held difficulty. Suddenly, a thick fog poured out of the Goblin King's mouth. White Knight frowned, wondering what was happening. The fog began to show him illusions. He saw goblins living their lives, but then they met a tragic fate. They were imprisoned and burned alive. Then, one of the skeletons he had summoned appeared in the illusion. Apparently, that skeleton had been a goblin when it was alive. He then noticed something strange. The Goblin King's body began to glow brightly, and it suddenly transformed into Regu the Skeleton King. It had entered a frenzied state with all its stats increased by 50. It was now level 10, and ranked as a dark gold quality boss. It had 800, 0 health points, 215 attack power, 780 physical defense, and 675 magic defense. Its skills included Summon Skeleton Warrior, Summon Skeleton Archer, Summon Skeleton Mage, Aura of Death, Thunderstrike, Death Storm, Death Elite, Frenzy, and Surrounding Death Aura. According to the system, this creature was one of the most successful creations of the ancient necromancers. Regu the Skeleton King realized that in the end, he still couldn't escape the fate of becoming undead. He called upon his warriors to fight for him. Their souls rose from their bodies and merged together to form his blade. White Knight stared at the terrifying monster and couldn't believe something like this could appear in a novice village. It launched bolts of lightning into the sky. With that, its summons appeared. Starting with a level 10 skeleton warrior. It had 60 health points, 780 attack power, 264 physical defense, and 216 magic defense along with a level 10 heavy strike skill. This was a heroic warrior enhanced by the Aura of Death, increasing all stats by 20. Another summon was a level 10 skeleton mage with 24 health points, 840 magic power, 100 physical defense, and 240 magic defense, and a level 10 fireball skill. This powerful mage was also enhanced by the Aura of Death, increasing all stats by 20. There was also a level 10 skeleton archer with 36 health points, 624 attack power, 160 physical defense, 120 magic defense, and a level 10 double arrow skill. This accurate archer was also enhanced by the Aura of Death, increasing all stats by 20. The combat power of those 6 summons already matched the strength of his 20 minions. The Skeleton King clearly wanted all its enemies to join the army of the undead. White Knight felt overwhelmed. The enemy's attack power was too high, and he really had no clear idea how he was going to win this fight. The system suddenly issued a warning. The hidden plot, Regu's Nightmare, had officially begun, and the novice village protection had been disabled. If he died, he would lose 10 of his lifespan with a minimum loss of 10 years. Hearing that nearly made his heart stop. Even if he absorbed all his soul stones, it wouldn't be enough to cover a single deduction. For a moment, he worried that his journey in Myriad World's hegemony might end right here. Regu the Skeleton King then launched a thunder strike, smashing several of his minions in one blow. White Knight was also hit. Gritting his teeth, he ordered his skeleton archers to target those scumbags and focus their fire. White Knight realized that with his current mana, he could only summon 20 skeleton warriors. He knew that wouldn't be enough. The enemy's defense was simply too high. He needed to upgrade his skills another tier. There were no safe options left. He decided to bet everything. First, he would heat the stones and see how much lifespan the metamorphosis upgrade would cost. He successfully absorbed several intermediate soul stones, bringing his lifespan to 6 years. The system announced that once the skill underwent a metamorphosis to C rank, 3 branches would appear: Summon Skeleton Warrior, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. He needed to choose a path to evolve. Without hesitation, he chose the Skeleton Warrior, as it was the safest choice due to its massive health pool. The system announced that he had lost 5 years of his lifespan. His rank skill, Summon Small Skeleton, had successfully mutated into a C rank skill, Summon Elite Skeleton. The skill was now C rank, level 8 with a 3-second cast time, 30-second cooldown, and 300 mana cost. The Skeleton Warrior's stats scaled with the player's spirit attribute. The mutation effect was incredible. The Skeleton Warrior's max health was increased by 500 while its attack power increased by 100. The bonus was so broken for a C-rank skill that White Knight couldn't help but wonder if the system was crazy. He immediately summoned more Skeleton Warriors to confront Regu the Skeleton King. Each Skeleton Warrior had 930 strength, 930 constitution, 930 agility, and 69 750 750 health points with 720 attack power, and 930 physical defense. Its heavy strike skill was at level 8, allowing it to swing its weapon and deal 185 physical damage with a 30-second cooldown. The mutation bonuses had pushed it to a whole new level. Max health increased by 500. Attack power increased by 100. And all its attribute bonuses were significantly enhanced. The skeleton warriors charged and attacked Regu the Skeleton King. While Regu ordered his undead subjects to hold the line, White Knight's skeletons began dealing steady damage. He continued to summon more warriors. Then the Skeleton King entered a frenzy state. Its attack power increased by 50, attack speed increased by 50, but both its defenses dropped by 50. Seeing their defenses drop, White Knight smirked. In his eyes, they had just hastened their own deaths. He immediately ordered all his summons to focus their fire in one final assault. Regu the Skeleton King's health bar dropped rapidly. Soon after, the system notification appeared. White Knight had killed it. He received another 50 experience bonus and 270 experience points. With that, he reached level 8, receiving 1 to all 4 stats, 1 skill point, and 15 free attribute points. But with 270 experience, he knew it wouldn't stop there. The system soon confirmed that he had reached level 9. Another announcement appeared. He had become the first player in Novice Village 9527 to solo kill a dark gold quality boss. His reward was 40 intermediate soulstones and 60 gold coins. This achievement was also broadcast to the entire village. He then received another system message congratulating him on achieving the first clear of the Misty Woods in Novice Village 9527. His reward was 5 random level 1 attribute gems and 5 gold coins. Just from this one metamorphosis upgrade, he had burned through over 13 years of his lifespan, but the rewards kept coming. Since he had also completed the first clear of the Hell difficulty Misty Woods, he received 20 intermediate soulstones and 20 gold coins. However, White Knight frowned since he had technically cleared a disaster level dungeon, not just Hell difficulty. At the entrance of the Misty Woods, the men in full plate armor continued recruiting players. Some nearby people showed interest in joining his group. Soon, everyone's attention shifted to another group emerging from the forest, all fully equipped. Since the leader was Reichi, the sight wasn't too surprising. Everyone knew her equipment must have cost a fortune. Still, they couldn't help but wonder just how rich she really was. The man who had been recruiting earlier approached them and said he had heard about their team. They politely replied that they were a far cry from this guild master Hong-Tu. Hearing that made Hong-Tu laugh smugly. Since everyone was gathered here, he proposed a bet. Richie raised an eyebrow and asked him what he wanted to bet on. Hong-Tu suggested they bet on who could get the first clear of the Misty Woods. Richie asked what the stakes were. Hong-Tu replied that his talent and her financial power were a perfect match. If he won the first clear, he wanted their team to join his Dominion Guild. She then asked what they would get if they cleared it first. Hong-Tu replied that in the future, the Dominion Guild would help them fulfill one request with its full strength. Richie immediately bargained, saying that one favor wasn't enough. She wanted 3. After a moment of silence, the deal was struck. But suddenly a system announcement appeared, saying that White Knight had claimed the first clear of the Misty Woods. Everyone stood there in stunned silence. Guildmaster Hong-Tu's expression darkened. This White Knight had completely ruined their bet and made them look foolish. He told Richie that since the first clear for normal difficulty was gone, they might as well aim for hard mode. But then more announcements appeared in quick succession. First, White Knight had claimed the first clear of the Hell difficulty Misty Woods. Second, he had become the first player to solo kill a dark gold quality boss. And third, a Blue Star region-wide announcement congratulated the Divine Dragon Empire player, White Knight, for becoming the first player in the entire Blue Star region to solo clear a disaster-level dungeon. Guildmaster Hong-Tu could only scream that this was completely absurd. Without another word, they entered the portal. Cotton Candy asked Richie if they were going in. Richie calmly replied that there was no need to rush anymore since the first clear was already gone. She said she wanted to wait a little longer. Meanwhile, in Novice Village 8888 of the Divine Dragon Empire, inside the Hell difficulty Misty Woods, a man with long black hair was fighting the Goblin King. He calmly parried the monster's attacks with his sword. This man was 3-foot Sword's Edge. He had also received the system announcements, which made him curious about what kind of talent White Knight had awakened. After all, he had been fighting the Goblin King for a while now, and still hadn't taken it down. At the same time, in Novice Village 9000, 526 of the Divine Dragon Empire. A blonde man remarked that the name White Knight sounded familiar. The woman next to him asked why he thought so. The woman was Liu Wan, and the man asked her if it was the guy who used to chase after her. She asked him if he was planning to marry her off again. Xiao Shu pulled her into his arms and told her not to feel wronged. He pointed out that when she was with Mu Bai back then, she still enjoyed years of glory and wealth. If Myriad World's hegemony hadn't appeared, he said he would have reached the pinnacle of his life by now. Liu Wan replied that the name White Knight reminded her of someone. Then she suddenly remembered a player who had used that name when he played games in the past. Xiao Shu immediately asked who it was. She replied that it was Sun Yubai. Xiao Shu quickly shook his head and said it was impossible. Sun Yubai should have been dead. After all, he had unplugged him with his own hands. Besides, Yubai couldn't be the only one to choose a name like White Knight. He dismissed the idea as just a coincidence. He even added that if it really was that kid, things would be much easier. Xiao Shu knew that Yubai had always had a thing for Liu Wan, so all she would have to do is seduce him again, and everything would fall into place. Liu Wan blushed slightly, but deep down, she was completely confident in her charms, and frankly, she didn't really care who White Knight was. The system congratulated White Knight for becoming the first player in the Blue Star region to solo clear a disaster-level dungeon. His reward was an rank skill book and a piece of epic quality equipment. Just as he expected from a disaster-level dungeon, the rewards were extremely generous. Now, even with only one drop of blood, he could definitely summon a whole mobile blood bank. He tapped the backpack button on his screen, and that activated Soul Siphon, a skill that allowed him to absorb death energy from corpses and store it. One siphon could target 5 corpses. The cooldown was 30 seconds. No cost. Max range was 15, and his current stored death energy was 0.80. The skill feedback instantly restored his own health or mana, or could be used to enhance one of his summoned. The cooldown was 30 seconds. It consumed 1 to 80 death energy. 1 death energy restored 100 health or 100 mana. 1 death energy could also increase the target's main attribute by 0.5 for 60 seconds. Now he would never have to worry about mana consumption again. At this point, he could only choose the free upgrade option. The system confirmed the free upgrade of the Soul Siphon feedback skill book to 1 tier. He confirmed and learned the new skill. He tested it on the enemy, and successfully siphoned 320 death energy from the corpse of the Dark Old Boss, Regu the Skeleton King. But the system soon announced that his stored death energy had reached its limit. If he wanted to siphon more, he needed to consume some first. He hadn't expected the amount to be so high. He guessed it was because the boss was originally an undead creature, so the death energy within it was much richer. He also received an item called the Whispering Shroud of the Dead, a type of cloth armor. It worked from level 10 to level 60, growing with the player's level. The item upgraded every 5 levels with a max upgrade at level 60. It was an epic quality item. He suspected this might be the first epic quality equipment in the entire Blue Star region. Unfortunately, it still needed to be appraised, and appraisal fees were never cheap. For now, he decided to hold on to it. He suddenly realized something. He rummaged through the remains of Regu the Skeleton King to see what else had dropped. His plan was to bundle it all up and send it to Richie later. After all, he had killed the boss twice, so he expected it to drop some good stuff. Suddenly, a huge pile of loot appeared. He got 10 gold coins, 38 silver coins, a 10 attribute gem, a 3 crit gem, and 5 pieces of gold quality equipment. There was also a dark gold quality item called the Pendant of the Dead, along with the shadow boots, heavy bone armor, and a bone greatsword. In addition, he got more C-rank skill books like Summon Elite Skeleton, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage. There were also B-rank skill books like Aura of Death and Thunder Strike. On top of that, more dark gold materials dropped, including 10 death energy bones, 10 remnant souls, and Hale's crystal orb. Since he already owned the 3 skill books, Summon Elite Skeleton, Summon Skeleton Archer, and Summon Skeleton Mage, the system asked if he wanted to merge the 3 into a new skill called Summon Advanced Skeleton. He didn't even know that skill books could be merged like this. He proceeded to merge them, learning the new skill. The skill was to rank, level 1. With it, he could summon an elite skeleton, skeleton archer, or skeleton mage to fight for him. The cast time was 3 seconds, the cooldown was 30 seconds, and it cost 300 mana. The skill also had special properties. The first property increased the elite skeleton's health by 500 and attack by 100. The second and third properties were still locked. He guessed those were for the skeleton archer and skeleton mage. meaning the skill would need another upgrade to unlock them. The system then asked him to choose an upgrade tier for the Summon Advanced Skeleton skill. A normal upgrade cost nothing. Sublimating it into an A rank skill, Summon Elite Skeleton, would cost 10,0 gold coins, while the final metamorphosis evolution into an rank skill, Summon Skeleton Legion, would cost 10 years of lifespan. White Knight chose to upgrade it directly. Just like that, the C rank Summon Advanced Skeleton skill was upgraded to B rank, level 1. A blue orb suddenly appeared, and he wondered what it was. The system asked if he wanted to accept the quest Hale's Legacy. It was an epic quality quest with extremely high difficulty, and the system advised him to consider it carefully. If he accepted, Hale's crystal orb would be partially unsealed and temporarily become his equipment. If he refused, the crystal orb would break through space and leave, searching for his next fated person. He wondered if this was the harvest from the hidden plot. He was also curious if the quest item itself could be upgraded, so he tried. The system then asked if he wanted to accept Dylan's Sorrow. It was a legendary quality quest with a difficulty described as beyond imagination, and the system once again warned him to think carefully. If he accepted, Dylan's crystal orb would be partially unsealed and temporarily become his equipment. If he refused, it would also break through space and leave to find its next fitted person. He chose to accept. Since his level was still too low, the system told him to reach level 30 within 1 month to start the first phase of the quest. If he didn't start the quest in time, he would lose Dylan's crystal orb. Dylan's crystal orb would reveal its true name after being completely unsealed. It started at level 0 and could reach a maximum of level 200. It was a legendary quality item with 1,0,1,0 durability. Its base stats were already impressive. 50 magic power, 20 to all stats, 0 health, and 2,0 mana. Its effects were also powerful. The first effect increased magic crit rate by 30 and gave 50 crit damage. The second and third effects were still sealed, and their abilities were unknown. They would unlock after entering the first phase of the quest. White Knight particularly liked how powerful the magic crit bonus was. He loved how this harvest had far exceeded his expectations. With everything collected, he finally set out to meet Richie. At the dungeon entrance, Cotton Candy asked Richie when they were going in. The sun had already set, and the Dominion Guild had entered the dungeon a long time ago. Richie replied that they should wait a little longer. Then White Knight finally stepped out, and she greeted him immediately. White Knight seemed surprised that they were actually waiting for him. She asked if he had brought the items. She also asked if they needed to change locations to trade. He told her there was no need, and they could complete the trade right here. He then summoned his skeletons, which immediately scared everyone around them. Richie said his strength was truly terrifying. In her mind, she was already certain he must be a player with SS-rank talent. White Knight told her that her talent was the one people were truly envious of. He told her he had a lot of items and asked if she could really eat them all by herself. She confidently assured him that it wouldn't be a problem. He then took out all the items, and everyone was stunned. Cotton Candy was especially happy, because there were so many skill books, and they were all D rank. She had never even heard of some of them before. Away was delighted by the huge amount of equipment. Richie simply told White Knight to name his price, and she would buy them all. He replied that black iron quality equipment was 5 silver, bronze quality was 20 silver, and rank skill books were 20 gold. She had no problem with the prices, and immediately threw him the money. He accepted them. She then asked him to bring out the real good stuff. He calmly replied that he had. He poured it all out again, and their jaws dropped when they saw the gold quality equipment, 2 rank skill books, and many other high quality items. White Knight pointed out that it seemed her money might not be enough. She admitted that they couldn't buy it all right now. He told her he could deliver it first, and they could pay the rest tomorrow. He wasn't worried about her running off with the goods since they could sign a system trade contract. Since he was being so direct, she decided not to be polite anymore and asked him to state the total price. He said everything else was negotiable, but the skill book in his hand alone was worth 500 gold coins. It was the Resurrection skill book. It was T-ranked, no level requirement, and an active skill. It allowed the user to revive a target player out of combat while reducing their death penalty by 50. The cast range was 15, cast time was 5 seconds, and the cooldown was 60 seconds. It consumed 300 mana, and only those with the cleric class could learn it. Cotton Candy was overjoyed when she saw it. Richie agreed to the deal and promised to pay the remaining gold tomorrow. White Knight remembered that the first effect of the Ms. Touch talent allowed the user to shake the money tree once a day, receiving a random amount of 1 to 999 gold coins. Her confidence in being able to pay 500 gold tomorrow surely came from the other two effects of that powerful talent. He also remembered that their first kill of the bronze quality boss had rewarded them with 2 soul stones. So, he asked if they wanted to make another deal. He could guarantee that they would claim the first clearer of the nightmare difficulty Misty Woods, and also gain the strength needed to farm hell difficulty. However, his condition was simple. He wanted the soul stones from the first clear of the Misty Woods along with the ones they currently had. Rishi and Fengzhi Xiao looked at each other. Then they both agreed to the deal. In the dungeon, while everyone else was busy fighting monsters, White Knight was just relaxing. He kept receiving notifications about monsters being killed and the experience he gained from them. Even with just 1 drop of blood, life was sweet, and his leveling speed wasn't slowing down at all. The system announced that he had reached level 9. He received 1 to all stats, 1 skill point, and 15 free attribute points. At the same time, he wondered where the appraiser had gone. He had run all this way just to find the appraiser and get his equipment appraised. Yet, he hadn't even seen a shadow of the guy. He couldn't understand why a perfectly good appraiser was so obsessed with painting. Instead of staying in his shop and doing his job, the guy had run out to the grasslands to sketch landscapes. Just then, the system suddenly announced that his elite skeleton had died. The metamorphosis trait activated. His elite skeleton revived in his summon space in full state. However, the elite skeleton couldn't trigger the revival effect again for 60 minutes. He hadn't expected it to be killed instantly. The elite skeleton had nearly 150, 0 health points, yet it was still killed in a moment. He wondered if the appraiser had done it. If he had known an entity could be that strong, he definitely would have saved more lifespan earlier. While White Knight was checking below the cliff, someone suddenly appeared behind him and said he wasn't bad for someone who could summon so many piles of broken bones. The man was Hai Jian, the appraiser and painter of Novice Village 9527. His level and health points were unknown. White Knight immediately noticed his terrifying speed. Hai Jian said he rarely came out in a good mood to sketch landscapes, yet this kid's pile of bones had completely ruined it. He told White Knight to speak up and asked how he planned to compensate him. White Knight asked if paying money would work. Hai Jian took the money bag and asked if he really looked like someone who needed money. However, he wasn't an unreasonable person. He said he would charge 100 gold, and that White Knight could take the painting as well. After all, his work wasn't something just anyone could get, so this kid should really be grateful. White Knight opened the painting and silently thought that even a 3-year-old could draw better. Hai Jian noticed his expression, and a dangerous aura immediately spread around him. White Knight quickly explained that he had misunderstood. He explained that he just wanted to calm his mind and wash his hands first so he could properly appreciate the insights Hai Jian had poured into the painting. That answer pleased Hai Jian. He said this kid wasn't bad. Since he happened to be in a good mood, he asked White Knight if he had anything to appraise since he would do it for free. White Knight immediately thanked him. Hai Jian checked the equipment and remarked that White Knight's strength wasn't bad, and his luck was quite good too. He then grumbled that for 100 gold, he had appraised 4 items, which meant he had really taken a big loss this time. Hai Jian chanted an incantation, and the details of the equipment appeared. 1. Shadow Boots Level 10 Plate Armor Boots, Dark Gold Quality. Requires 80 Strength and 50 Constitution. Stats include 75 Physical Defense, 50 Magic Defense, 800 Health, 20 Strength, 20 Constitution, 10 Agility, and 10 Movement Speed. The attached skill is Shadow Step, allowing the wearer to blend into the shadows, increasing movement speed by 60 and reducing damage taken by 10. 2. Heavy Bone Armor Level 10 Upper Body Plate Armor, Dark Gold Quality. Requires 100 Strength and 80 Constitution. The armor provides 180 Physical Defense, 120 Magic Defense, 200 Health, 25 Strength, and 25 Constitution. It also reduces physical damage taken by 100 points. The attached skill is Bone Armor. Part of the Bone Set 1-2. 3. Bone Greatsword Level 10 Two-Handed Weapon, Dark Gold Quality. Requires 120 Strength. The weapon provides 288 attack and 50 strength, and its attacks deal 30 splash damage. The attached skill is Power Strike, giving attacks a chance to deal triple damage. It is also part of the Bone Set 1-2. 4. Pendant of the Dead Level 10 Necklace, Dark Gold Quality. Requires 100 Spirit. It provides 80 magic power, 500 health, 1 mana, 30 spirit, 10 constitution, and 10 agility. Its attacks can apply a curse effect, reducing the target's dual defenses by 100 points. Pai Jian told him that under normal circumstances, just one of those items would have cost 100 gold to appraise. This meant White Knight had gotten a huge bargain. He warned him to keep his piles of broken bones away from him, and not to disturb his sketching anymore. White Knight then asked him to wait a moment. Pai Jian was getting annoyed. He asked if White Knight had another piece of dark gold equipment to appraise. Deep down, he regretted agreeing to appraise for free. It really felt like he had taken a big loss this time. To his surprise, this kid actually had an epic quality piece of equipment. White Knight just said he was lucky. The item was the Whispering Shroud of the Dead. White Knight took this opportunity to get a free appraisal since the fee for the dark gold items had already been so steep. Pai Jian kept his word and said the appraisal would indeed be free, and that he wouldn't take his money. However, his appraisal technique level was too low. So, he was completely unable to appraise the item. White Knight was shocked to hear that. Pai Jian argued that he was just a part-time appraiser in a novice village, so it was perfectly reasonable that he couldn't appraise epic quality equipment. When White Knight thought about it, the old man's explanation did make sense. So, Pai Jian offered to teach him an appraisal technique instead. For White Knight, this was really good news. If he learned it, he wouldn't have to spend money on appraisal fees in the future. However, Pai Jian said he would need to pay the tuition fee first. White Knight asked how much it would cost. Pai Jian held up 5 fingers. So, White Knight guessed it was 500 gold coins. Pai Jian confirmed he was right, but it wasn't 500 gold coins. It was 500 ancient gold coins. Ancient gold coins were part of the first batch of coins ever minted. They had long been out of circulation and technically had no official value. But to some antique collectors, their value far surpassed that of regular gold coins. White Knight suddenly remembered that when copper coins were upgraded, they became ancient copper coins. And he actually had some in his backpack. It made him wonder if gold coins were upgraded, would they become ancient gold coins? Just then, the system announced that Pai Jian had added him as a friend. He had also received a quest called Collect Ancient Gold Coins. The quest was to collect 500 ancient gold coins for Pai Jian. The reward would be the sub-skill, Primary Appraisal Technique. Pai Jian was about to leave when White Knight suddenly asked him to wait again. That only made Pai Jian more annoyed. But when he turned around, he saw White Knight holding a large money bag. His jaw dropped when he saw how many ancient coins were inside. White Knight then calmly asked if Pai Jian could teach him the appraisal technique now. Pai Jian was clearly very pleased. He admitted the kid had given him a very pleasant surprise. He handed over the skill book, and just like that, White Knight had completed the hidden quest and received his reward. Pai Jian left immediately, but before he went, he told White Knight to find him again when he had 10 ancient gold coins. If he did, Pai Jian promised to give him another surprise. With that, White Knight received a new quest called Collect Ancient Gold Coins too. This time, he had to collect 10 ancient gold coins, though the reward was still unknown. White Knight found him interesting, especially since the old man promised to give him a big surprise. A primary appraisal technique obviously couldn't satisfy him, so he upgraded it and received the intermediate appraisal technique. After learning this subskill, he received the title of intermediate appraiser. His current technique proficiency was 010. As his skill proficiency increased, the success rate of his appraisals would improve slightly. The success rate for dark gold quality equipment was 60. While epic quality equipment had only a 10 success rate, the cast time was 5 seconds, the cooldown was 60 seconds, and it consumed 10 mana. The subskill did not take up a player's skill slot. Now, he began to appraise his item, but it failed. After all, the success rate was only 10. It made him wonder if his luck was really that bad. He kept trying, and the system kept reporting that the appraisal had failed. He was stubborn and kept going until he finally got tired. Suddenly, he received a notification that a wild treasure chest had been discovered. Today was really a day full of surprises. If the treasure chest was guarded by a high-level monster, then he had clearly hit the jackpot. He decided to go check it out. The treasure chest was guarded by wolves. He was happy to see that everything was as he had expected. He called his boys over to get to work. The skeletons immediately attacked the monsters. The large wolf let out a loud howl, calling for more of its pack members. White Knight didn't mind. When it came to numbers, he welcomed the challenge. The skeletons cut down the wolves one after another. The large wolf struggled in pain before finally breathing its last. White Knight boasted that he hadn't even finished lining up his skeletons, and the monster was already dead. The system announced that he had killed a level 10 enhanced elite monster, the Prairie Dare Wolf, receiving another 50 level gap bonus and 450 experience points. He had also killed a level 10 silver quality boss, the Prairie Wolf King, receiving another 50 level gap bonus and 36,000 experience points. The loot included 1 gold coin and 38 silver coins. He also got a level 1 agility gem and a basic skill book. His level increased to level 10, receiving 1 to all 4 stats, 1 skill point, and 15 free attribute points. He also became the first player in the Blue Star region of Myriad Worlds Hegemony to reach level 10, receiving the title Vanguard. White Knight was then curious about something. Could a wild treasure chest be upgraded? So, he tried it. The upgrade was a success. White Knight opened the chest. He got a gold quality piece of equipment called a withered wooden staff. There was also a gold quality treasure map. He was a bit disappointed that there were only 2 items inside. However, the treasure map quickly piqued his interest. According to the map's instructions, it would lead him to a gold quality treasure chest. The system asked if he wanted to use the treasure map. Once used, the treasure hunting route would be marked on the system map. The destination coordinates of this treasure map were outside the novice village. The system then announced that his level had reached the limit of the novice village. He needed to find the village chief and report to his affiliated city, or else he would no longer receive experience points. That's when he realized that players had to leave the novice village upon reaching level 10. He decided to find the village chief first, and in the meantime, he conveniently upgraded the treasure map. After the upgrade, it became a dark gold quality treasure map. The road immediately appeared on his map, and the destination coordinates were now outside Splendor City. The system instructed him to head there to start the treasure hunt. The road was extremely far and would require him to go abroad. For now, he accepted that he couldn't get it yet. Meanwhile, Guildmaster Hong-Tu walked out of the dungeon. The system announced in Novice Village 9527 that the Dominion Guild had achieved the first clear of the hard difficulty Misty Lands dungeon. Guildmaster Hong-Tu immediately told his men to prepare as they would challenge nightmare difficulty right away. Suddenly, another announcement appeared. It said that Richie had led a team to achieve the first clearer of the nightmare difficulty Misty Lands dungeon. Guildmaster Hong-Tu was shocked that they had beaten him to it. He demanded to know how they could have cleared nightmare difficulties so quickly. Richie simply wished him good luck. He was furious that White Knight had only sold the equipment and skill books to her. Now that White Knight dared to oppose him, Hong-Tu swore he would make him pay. Richie then told her team to rest for a while as they would soon start farming hell difficulty. Just then, another Blue Star announcement appeared. The system congratulated the Divine Dragon Empire player, White Knight, for becoming the first player in the Blue Star region to reach level 10. Due to this milestone, the Novice Village level leaderboards had been opened ahead of schedule. The Novice Village 9527 leaderboard was displayed 1. White Knight, level 10, no faction. 2. Finita, level 5, no faction. 3. Bowie, level 5, no faction. 4. Hard to Wake Up, level 5, no faction. 5. Richie, level 5, no faction. 6. Cotton Candy, level 5, no faction. 7. Hong-Tu, level 5, Dominion Guild. 8. One Sword to Marquise, level 5, Dominion Guild. 9. Chicken Flavored Rice Crust, level 5, Dominion Guild. 10. Milky White Snow, level 5, Dominion Guild. Guildmaster Hong-Tu was clearly not happy with these results. Cotton Candy told their boss that White Knight was leveling up unbelievably fast. Fenjie Xiao agreed, saying it was like watching someone ride a rocket. During their previous trade, he was only level 8 while they were level 5. Since they had received the soul stones, Richie decided to send them to White Knight. She knew that building a good relationship with someone like him was extremely important. She told her team they were free to move around while she went back. Soon, she met him. She handed over 10 primary soul stones, which were the reward from the first clear. She also told him that if he got any good items in the future, she hoped he would remember her first. She promised that price would never be an issue. The system then informed White Knight that his contract with her had been fulfilled. He assured her that as long as she had the money, there would naturally be no shortage of good items. Before he left, he told her to contact him again when she left the Novice Village. That only confirmed to her that building a good relationship with him was the right move. White Knight then walked toward a house. He had a feeling this was the right place. A man with a thick brown beard stepped out and said he hadn't expected a descender to reach level 10 so quickly. It was the village chief. White Knight told him he wanted to leave the Novice Village. The village chief agreed. He said that this godforsaken land would eventually belong to the descenders. He then told White Knight to follow him. The floor in the center of the house began to glow, and the village chief told White Knight to step on it. Their village was affiliated with East Sea City. East Sea City was one of the 10 great tier-1 main cities of the Divine Dragon Empire, and also the most prosperous coastal city in the empire. The village chief told him that going to East Sea City would be the true start of his journey. White Knight thanked him, and promised that if fate allowed, he would one day return to repay him. After White Knight disappeared, the village chief sighed. He whispered that the chaotic times of the god-forsaken land were coming again, and this time he didn't know how many people would die. Meanwhile, Teshu asked Li Wen if she really believed that White Knight could be me, but Li Wen said she didn't care who he was or wasn't. She was confident that once they met him, he would never escape from the palm of her hand. In East Sea City, White Knight had just completed his teleportation. He remarked that this world was too realistic. He was a bit disappointed that leaving the novice village didn't even come with a reward or anything special. Unexpectedly, the system announced that the Deathly Codex had risen to level 10. The Deathly Codex was his exclusive item. It couldn't be dropped, damaged, or traded. He could summon and restore it at will. It was currently at level 10, corresponding to his character level. Its base stats were 300 magic power, 100 to all stats, and damage dealt by undead creatures was increased by 100. The summons would also receive this buff. Another effect was soul absorption, where targets killed by him or his summons would have a portion of their soul power absorbed. When wild monsters were killed by him, their respawn time was doubled. When players were killed by him, they would suffer double the penalty, including lifespan loss. His current soul points were 0. He needed to consume 10 soul points to get a second chance to open the Deathly Codex. The second special effect would unlock at level 30. The Codex was a rule book that only he could read, and once certain conditions were met, he could learn exclusive Death Lord skills from it. He found the double death penalty and the ability to learn exclusive skills particularly interesting. He opened the book, and the characters inside began to float and glow. His eyes also began to glow. In that moment, he learned a new skill called Gaze of Death. The process was painful, but he successfully obtained the skill. Gaze of Death was Insis rank, level 1 skill, with 050 proficiency. It was an active skill. Its effects were as follows: 1. Deals true damage equal to 50 of his magic power per second for 10 seconds. 2. Creatures caught in his gaze will be continuously afflicted by fear. 3. All creatures with a lower life level than him will have all their stats immediately reduced by 20 upon being looked at. This effect is purely dependent on life level, and cannot be reduced by resistance. 4. Creatures killed by the Gaze of Death will suffer extreme pain, and upon revival will enter a weakened state with all stats reduced by 40 for 12 hours. The skill was instant cast with a 60-second cooldown and consumed 5 of his maximum mana. Once cast, it did not require continuous channeling, and the maximum attack range was 100. Simply put, where his gaze fell, death followed like a shadow. He was impressed by the true damage per second, and was even more excited about the upgrade properties that could double the damage and double the attack range. However, he also thought the phrase "one look and you're dead" sounded a bit perverted. Suddenly, someone appeared nearby. The man said he hadn't expected that among the Descenders, someone would awaken this kind of power. He told White Knight that he was both lucky and unlucky. White Knight asked him who he was. The man had long silver hair and a beard. His name was Sitiji, the Lord of East Sea City and an elder of the Divine Dragon Hall. He was clearly another powerful character whose level couldn't be seen. White Knight politely greeted City Lord Situ. Sitiji's eyes lit up. He said White Knight truly wielded the power of death. He can see that White Knight had class changed into a Lord-level class. According to him, such a class should never have appeared in the Forbidden Land of the Gods. Our MC was surprised that this person had actually seen through his hidden class. Situji then sighed and said it was a pity. If White Knight walked this path, his future would be much more difficult than that of other Lord-level classes. Curious, White Knight asked him what he meant. Situji said the answer would come through a test. If he passed, he would learn more about the Death Lord. The system suddenly announced that he had received a quest item, the Medallion of the Forgotten. He also accepted an epic quality quest called Situji's Test. The objective was simple yet daunting: clear the Forgotten Land and achieve a 100 exploration rate. The reward was unknown, and strangely, there was no failure penalty. White Knight was stunned. He had just received a free epic quest. Then the Medallion began to count down to teleport him to the Forgotten Land. White Knight panicked. He hadn't even had time to prepare. He was planning to import gems into his equipment first. He started screaming in frustration, asking where the teleportation array to the Forgotten Land was. He had officially entered the Forgotten Land. The epic quest, Situji's test, had begun. To complete it, he had to clear the entire area within 72 hours and achieve 100 exploration. White Knight immediately summoned his minions. Without them, he wouldn't feel safe for a single second. The skeleton mage appeared. It had 580 spirit, 580 agility, 580 constitution, and 640. Its magic power reached 160, and its physical defense was 693. Its main skill was Fireball, E rank level 9, which dealt 220 of its magic power as fire damage with a 5-second cast time and a 30-second cooldown. White Knight was pleased. Now that his minions had Fireball, their attacks were much more ferocious. Soon, enemy skeletons began charging at him. They were level 20 normal monsters with 210 attack, 120 physical defense, and 80 magic defense. Creatures like these were everywhere in the Forgotten Land. Weak, but annoyingly numerous. White Knight gave the order. All forces, attack. The system announced that he had killed a level 20 skeleton. He received a 50 level gap bonus, gaining 30 experience points. His Vanguard skill also activated, giving him an additional 6 exp. White Knight frowned slightly. He wondered why these level 20 monsters gave less experience than the level 10 wild boars from before. However, it worked in his favor. There were skeletons everywhere. The system kept notifying him again and again as more level 20 skeletons fell. White Knight then decided to test his new skill, Gaze of Death. As soon as he used it, the skeletons fell instantly. One hit was all it took. He was impressed. The skill was an instant problem solver. Though it was a bit ironic. The skeletons were already dead, and he was still killing them again. He continued his unrestrained assault and quickly regained his mana. He then opened the Deathly Codex. It showed 0 soul points. White Knight stared at the screen in confusion. That didn't make sense. He was certain he had siphoned the souls of the monsters he killed. So, where had all the soul points gone? Suddenly, a voice echoed throughout the area. It said that this place was the Forgotten Land. When they were alive, they had suffered a terrible curse, and their souls had been locked here ever since. A spirit soon appeared, and introduced himself as Lodu, one of the Forgotten Ones. He was a level 20 special elite spirit form with 100, 8. His spirit body was immune to physical damage. White Knight asked what this curse was. Lodu explained that the souls here couldn't be collected unless the curse was lifted. Curious, White Knight asked how to remove it. Lodu pointed toward a nearby pillar of light. When White Knight looked closer, he saw a chained coffin. Its lid was broken, and a terrifying skeleton with long black hair was peeking out. Naturally, White Knight wanted a closer look. As they approached, even his skeletons hesitated. White Knight asked what was strange about the coffin. It was called the Soul-Locking Coffin. It had a 1 million shield value, 0 physical defense, and 0 magic defense. The system announced that discovering the coffin had increased his exploration rate by 2. Destroying it would increase the rate by another 3. However, there was a warning. Once the coffin was destroyed, a terrifying existence would be unleashed. He was advised to act within his capabilities. Lodu quickly urged him to destroy it. White Knight, however, was just curious. He wanted to see exactly how terrifying this thing was. So, he ordered his minions to start attacking. The skeletons rushed in, and hacked at the coffin from all angles. Blow after blow rained down on the lid. Soon, the coffin's shield bar dropped to a critical level. Lodu started to panic, saying it was about to come out. But White Knight just watched with amusement. Then it happened. A large, ferocious skeleton burst out of the coffin. Heavy chains were wrapped around its body. This was Neil, one of the Forgotten Ones. He was a level 20 dark gold quality boss, a semi-frostlich. His age reached 500, 500. He had 800 magic power, 500 physical defense, 100 magic defense, and 20 elemental resistance. His abilities included ice-based spells and dark curse spells. He had clearly tried to transform into a full lich, but had failed halfway. Neil glared at White Knight angrily. This outsider had ruined his transformation process. Lodu panicked, and told White Knight to run immediately. But Neil suddenly stopped. He sensed something within White Knight's body. A thick and powerful aura of death. If he absorbed that energy, he believed he could finally complete his transformation. White Knight raised an eyebrow and calmly asked him one thing: who gave you the confidence to think you could do that? He then ordered his skeleton army to attack. The skeletons swarmed forward and attacked Neil from all sides. Neil didn't seem worried. His defense was extremely high. He believed these weak undead could never break through. He then smashed several of White Knight's skeletons with brute force. But he suddenly froze when arrows began to rain down from the skeleton archers. Neil looked at White Knight in disbelief. He demanded to know who he really was to be able to summon so many powerful undead creatures. He quickly erected an ice shield to block the arrows. Neil then summoned his own servants. The first was a ghoul, level 20, with 150, 150, 0 to hit, 960 attack, 800 physical defense, and 700 magic defense. Its skills were Iron Hook and Plague Cloud. This creature looked horrific, stitched together from pieces of other corpses. The other servants were ghoul minions. They were also level 20, each with each 0 to 8, 580 attack, 500 physical defense, and 420 magic defense. Their skill was rent. Their mouths constantly exuded the smell of rotting flesh. White Knight wrinkled his nose. He complained that the battlefield suddenly smelled terrible. So, he decided to use his new skill, Gaze of Death. The system announced that Gaze of Death had been used on Neil, the Forgotten One. Since White Knight's life level was higher than Neil's, all of Neil's stats were reduced by 40. White Knight blinked. He wondered if being a Death Lord had elevated his life level. Meanwhile, Neil felt his power suddenly drain away. He couldn't understand what had just happened. White Knight wasted no time. He ordered his minions to deal with the rotten fish and shrimp in front of him. Every enemy had to be wiped out. The undead army attacked relentlessly, dealing continuous damage. As Neil was overwhelmed, he screamed in despair. He screamed that he didn't want to be forgotten. The system announced that he had killed the level 20 Dark Gold quality boss, Neil the Forgotten One. He received a 50 experience bonus, gaining 750, 0 experience. His Vanguard skill also activated, giving him an additional 150, 0 experience. With that, White Knight reached level 12. He received 1 point to all 4 stats, 1 skill point, and 15 free attribute points. White Knight blinked. He couldn't believe the fight ended so easily. He also received a dark gold quality item called the Cursed Crown Fragment. This item was 1/10 of a dark gold quality piece of equipment. If all the fragments were collected, the cursed crown would automatically be repaired. But the wearer would suffer a curse and be under constant erosion from death energy. White Knight felt a little annoyed. The small monsters didn't drop anything, and the boss was surprisingly stingy. Still, he had to collect all the fragments. Since they were dark gold fragments, once repaired, the complete item should at least reach epic quality equipment. For now, he decided to hold on to it. Unexpectedly, Loju appeared right in front of him, amazed that White Knight had actually freed Neil. He invited White Knight to go kill the next person, then quickly corrected himself. They would go save the next person. Loju told him to just follow him since the next one was right ahead, but this time it wouldn't be so easy. White Knight hadn't expected there to be another one. White Knight replied that if it was too troublesome, he wouldn't go. Loju immediately tried to bribe him with a skill blow. White Knight narrowed his eyes at him and asked why he hadn't taken it out sooner if he already had it. The skill book was called Corpse Explosion. It was an active, C-rank level 1 skill. It detonated a target's corpse or remains, dealing magic damage to all enemies within a 5 radius. It couldn't be used on boss corpses. The damage was 10 of the target's max to plus 100 of his magic power. The cast range was 30 with an instant cast, 30-second cooldown, and 300 mana cost. When White Knight read it, he realized it was an own skill. He immediately decided to upgrade it. The skill was upgraded to a B-rank skill called Advanced Corpse Explosion. It detonated a corpse within a 10 radius, still unusable on boss corpses. The damage was increased to 15 of the target's max plus 150 of his magic power. The cast range became 15, still an instant cast with a 30-second cooldown, but the mana cost increased to 600. He used it on an enemy. The explosion erupted and covered a wide area. White Knight hadn't expected the power to be so strong, and the range so wide. Loju kept praising him, but White Knight ignored the nonsense. He was just happy he now had an enemy skill. Grinding would become much faster. An hour later, White Knight grumbled that the Forgotten Land was really quite large. Soon he encountered the Forgotten One, Walter. This was already his 7th opponent. White Knight used Corpse Explosion on him. Walter didn't go down easily. Before he fell, he threatened that White Knight would eventually pay the price. Finally, Walter died and dropped loot. White Knight now had 7 fragments. He checked to see what kind of equipment could be synthesized. Lodu suddenly shouted for him not to synthesize it, warning that the item would corrode him, but the fragments had already begun to form into a crown. White Knight asked Lodu what nonsense he was talking about. Lodu looked at the crown in fear and said it was too late. The system informed White Knight that he had obtained the item Cursed Crown. The fragments merged and repaired the equipment. His current exploration rate had reached 50. Just as he had expected, once the fragments were upgraded, the final item's quality also rose by 1 tier. But a 50 exploration rate meant there were still other monsters. Lodu urgently told him to throw the crown away immediately. Otherwise, the death energy would corrode him, and he would eventually become an undead like the others here. But White Knight stood there in a daze. Lodu shouted again, telling him to throw it away quickly. The system then announced that he was being corroded by the death energy from the cursed crown. However, the stored death energy in his body had reached its limit. He could only continue to absorb more after consuming some. Any excess death energy would have no effect on him. Suddenly, the ground began to shake. White Knight snapped back to his senses. He asked if there really was such a terrifying enemy here. He immediately ordered his skeleton army to form a defensive formation. A faint white light began to leak from the ground. Lodu immediately recognized who was coming, and fear filled his face. A red coffin with gold edges slowly rose from the ground. The system announced that the aura of the cursed crown had awakened Franklin the Lich, who had been sleeping beneath the Forgotten Land. Lodu screamed that it was Franklin who had cursed them all. It was he who had turned this place into the Forgotten Land. Lodu begged White Knight to help him kill the monster Franklin. In return, he was willing to pay any price. White Knight realized that this NDC had become something of a companion to him, so he promised to help. Lodu's status panel appeared. He was the mayor of Twilight Town, and what stood before White Knight was just a remnant of his soul. He was a level 20 special elite in spirit form with 100, 0 AP. His skill was soul possession, which increased the target's main attribute by 20. His spirit form was immune to physical damage. Lodu had finally recovered his memories. He had once been the mayor of Twilight Town, but now he was the only soul left. White Knight accepted the unique hidden quest, Lodu's request. The objective was to kill Franklin the Lich. The reward was unknown. He also received the soul possession buff, increasing his spirit attribute by 20. Lodu thanked White Knight. Franklin was extremely powerful, so he promised to fight alongside him with everything he had. The Forgotten One, Franklin, was a level 20 Frost Lich. Since he was in a severely injured state, his level had been reduced. He was still an epic quality boss with 15 million, 48, 0 magic power, 5, 0 physical defense, and 8, 0 magic defense. His elemental resistance was 95 ice, 30 dark, and 25 death. His skills included ice, dark, and death spells. He was a true lich. Although his soul was severely damaged, he was still extremely dangerous. Franklin was surprised to see that the pathetic man from back then had actually survived. He then sensed the power emanating from the repaired cursed crown. He called for the crown to return to him, its rightful master. But to his surprise, the crown did not respond. White Knight calmly said that there was no reason an item in his hands should listen to Franklin's summons. The cursed crown was a legendary quality item usable from level 10 to 20 with 0 durability. The normal equip requirement was Franklin, but a Death Lord could bypass that requirement and force equip it. After killing the opponent, the equip limit would return to normal. Its base stats at level 15 were 100 physical defense, 200 magic defense, 2, 0, 4, 0 mana, and 75 to all stats. White Knight put on the crown. Its effects were as follows: 10 spirit, 30 curse resistance, and the wearer would be under constant energy erosion. One of its skills was Cursed Power, a passive ability that caused all spells to carry a curse effect. It randomly applied 2 curses to the target that lasted for 5 seconds with a 5-second cooldown. The second skill was Cursed Aura, an aura-type skill. When activated, all enemies within a 100-meter radius would have their speed reduced by 30. This included attack speed, movement speed, and cast speed. The skill consumed 200 mana per second, and had no cooldown. Franklin immediately summoned his Shadow Knights. They were level 20 with 200, 0 deep, 6, 800 attack, 800 physical defense, and 800 magic defense. Their skills included Shadow Charge, Shadow Power, and Shadow Shield. The army of an epic quality boss was clearly much stronger than that of a Dark Gold boss. White Knight didn't hesitate. He challenged the minions first and ordered his skeleton army to charge. The skeleton knights attacked the shadow knights' horses, while the skeleton archers rained arrows down on them. White Knight activated the cursed aura. Their speed immediately dropped by 30. Forget about riding horses. At this speed, even a car would crawl like a snail. Franklin could only curse in anger. Meanwhile, White Knight felt quite satisfied. He was now level 15, equipped with 2 legendary items, and the Deadly Codex had significantly enhanced his stats. Compared to when he first arrived in the Forgotten Land, his stats had almost doubled. The only disappointment was that the cursed crown couldn't be upgraded further. Franklin coldly warned him that he was courting death. White Knight replied that he wouldn't even give him a chance to breathe. He immediately used Gaze of Death on Franklin. The system judged that White Knight's life level was higher than his opponent's. As a result, the Curse of Pain was applied to Franklin, dealing dark damage equal to 100 of his magic power every second for 5 seconds. Franklin fell to his knees. He couldn't believe what was happening. He asked White Knight who he really was. White Knight replied that he didn't need to know. That answer annoyed Franklin. A miserable human dared to insult a great lich. He declared that no matter who White Knight was, he would be buried in the Forgotten Land. A violent vortex erupted from Franklin's chest. He wanted this human dead. Above all, Franklin wanted RNC's power. He summoned Chaos. This was Chaos, an undead bone dragon. Level 20. It was severely injured, so its level had been reduced. Still, it was an epic quality boss. Its health was 20 million. Attack 12, 0. Physical defense 10, 0. Magic defense 6, 0. Death elemental resistance 30. Its skills were Bone Prison, Bone Spike Hell, and Death Storm. The system informed White Knight that Chaos had appeared, and his exploration rate had reached 90. White Knight couldn't believe it. Franklin had actually summoned a bone dragon. Just as he thought, the test given by the Lord of East Sea City was truly brutal. Chaos breathed a stream of fiery breath at him. The skeletons quickly formed a defensive wall and blocked the attack for him. Franklin was stunned. Those were just skeleton warriors, yet they had managed to block his bone dragon. The system informed White Knight that he had consumed all his death energy points to reinforce the target skeleton warrior, increasing all its stats by 640. He was being corroded by the death energy from the cursed crown. His death energy points increased by 10. As he began to collect death energy again, he thought of the crown as a mobile power bank. He was excited to show off his strength. Franklin was pushed back and became furious. He screamed at White Knight for using his crown. He then launched Ice Hell. The spell shot straight into White Knight's chest. Franklin burst out laughing after firing his death ray. With such a fragile human body, he expected the man to die instantly. But he soon realized something was wrong. This human had learned a life-sharing skill, but that skill wasn't perfect. Franklin immediately cast a powerful spell called Death and Decay. He then created a bone prison, trapping RNC inside. He followed up with Bone Spike Hell. Most of White Knight's skeletons were impaled by the spikes erupting from the ground. White Knight realized Franklin was trying to use area of effect attacks to break his life link. He recalled the unreinforced skeletons to free up summon space. Now Franklin wouldn't be able to break it. He then ordered the remaining skeletons to capture the leader. If they caught Franklin, the minions would fall apart. He planned to finish him off directly. Franklin was startled when a skeleton suddenly approached. He dealt continuous damage to it. White Knight told his skeleton to endure. The skeleton was finally torn to pieces. Franklin declared that the human had lost, but White Knight replied that he was joking. The system announced that he had consumed his death energy points. He reinforced the skeleton again. Franklin grew fearful as it began to approach him once more. He couldn't move from where he was standing. The skeleton then attacked and killed him. The system announced that White Knight had killed Franklin. He received another 70 experience bonus and earned 75 million experience points. With that, he reached level 17. He also defeated the level 20 epic boss, the undead bone dragon, Chaos. He received a 70 experience bonus and earned 25 million experience points. This pushed his level to 19. He also became the first player in the Blue Star region to kill an epic quality boss. His reward was 100 to his main attribute, 50 skill points, and 50 intermediate soul stones. White Knight couldn't help but be impressed with his progress. He checked the soul stones and realized he no longer had to worry about running out of lifespan. He now had 50 advanced soul stones, and each one could increase lifespan by 1 euro upon absorption. Naturally, he absorbed all of them, bringing his lifespan to 51 years. Just like that, his lifespan crisis was completely resolved. The system then made a Blue Star region-wide announcement. White Knight had become the first player in the entire Blue Star region to solo kill an epic quality boss. Richie immediately realized they had to stick close to him. As the announcement spread, Zhao Shu told Li Wan they had to leave the novice village as soon as possible and meet this White Knight. Li Wan admitted he was powerful, but as long as he was a man, whether he was White Knight or Miyu Bai, she was confident he would fall for her charms. White Knight received a special epic quality item, the Dragon Head Pendant. When used, it would grant him an epic quality mount, the Undead Bone Dragon. He was amazed by it. Just imagining himself riding an epic flying mount excited him. He then decided to upgrade it and received a legendary quality special item called the Frost Horn. If he blew it, he could summon a legendary mount from the Undead Realm, the Frost Dragon. He blew the horn. An ominous portal then appeared. A thick aura of death suddenly spread through the air. The Frost Dragon appeared. It looked down and hadn't expected its summoner to be just a foolish human. Suddenly, a purifying light enveloped it. White Knight panicked and quickly told it not to touch him. Then, something unexpected happened. The Frost Dragon suddenly became docile. It willingly accepted to become his mount. With that, White Knight's mount space was unlocked. A Blue Star announcement was made that White Knight had obtained a mount. At the same time, the Blue Star region mount rankings were officially opened. The Frost Dragon shrank in size and perched on White Knight's shoulder. White Knight soon discovered that mounts also had rankings, and even their own skills. The Frost Dragon was a mythic grade evolutionary class at level 0. Its maximum level could not exceed the player's level by more than 10. It had 100 loyalty points, a 200 movement speed bonus, and a health pool of 1,000,000. Its stats would increase with its level. It had a mana pool of 20, 0 20, 0, 12, 0 attack power, 8, 0 magic power, 10, 0 physical defense, and 12, 0 magic defense. Its elemental resistance included 80 ice, 70 water, 60 dar, and 40 other elements. Its skills were Frost Dragon's Breath, Dragon's Might, and Shrink. Once it reached certain levels, it would automatically comprehend more skills. White Knight was thoroughly impressed by the power of a mythic grade creature. Meanwhile, other players were going crazy over the new mount rankings. They were shocked that White Knight already had a mythic grade Frost Dragon. It really felt like he was playing a completely different game from everyone else. While White Knight was feeding his Frost Dragon, Lodu told him he had sensed the location of the phylactery. White Knight asked where it was. Lodu simply told him to follow him. They went deeper into the forest and soon found Franklin's phylactery. It was an epic quality item with a durability of 1,000,000. This was a life-saving item that Franklin had crafted during his peak. It contained his soul flame. As long as the phylactery remained intact, the lich would never truly die. White Knight couldn't help but find its ridiculous durability amusing. Lodu said he wanted to finish this guy off himself. Suddenly, Franklin's voice came from the phylactery as he burst out laughing. He taunted Lodu and asked what a remnant like him could do. Lodu was furious. He grabbed the phylactery with both hands and told Franklin to die. Franklin tried to resist, but it was no use. Lodu succeeded. He then turned to White Knight and thanked him for everything he had done for Twilight Town. He thanked him sincerely, with tears in his eyes. White Knight immediately received several system notifications. First, he received 1,0 soul points for destroying the soul of the level 20 epic boss, Franklin the Forgotten One. He received another 70 experience bonus, and gained 12.75 million experience points. This pushed him to level 20. He received 1.0 all 4 sats, 1 skill point, and 15 free attribute points. With this, he had completed Lodu's request, and received an additional 10 million experience points along with 1,0 gold coins. His exploration rate also reached 100. This officially completed Situji's test. The system advised him to return to EC City and find Situji to receive his rewards. He also received 1,200 gold coins, 20 level 5 attribute gems, 10 epic materials called Millennium Ice Crystals, and 24 primary Fate Soul Stones. At the teleportation square of East Sea City, there wasn't a single player in the city yet. That meant no one had reached level 10. So, White Knight decided to test his mount first. He summoned his Frost Dragon. It appeared in its original form. Our guy's task now was to find Situji and turn in the quest. He climbed onto its back and rode off. Situji saw the huge shadow cast over them, and they couldn't believe it. Eventually, Situji saw him arriving on the Frost Dragon. White Knight had clearly far exceeded his expectations. As soon as White Knight landed, Situji told him to make his pet shrink. Otherwise, his residence wouldn't be able to withstand its rampage. They entered the living room. Situji quickly realized that White Knight's class was not just a simple Lord-level class. White Knight asked him what he meant. He asked if there was a difference between Lord-level classes. Situji admitted he wasn't entirely sure, but since White Knight had completed the test, he was willing to answer some of his questions. Meanwhile, White Knight couldn't help but think that Situji was a bit stingy for not giving any quest rewards. Situji explained that in Myriad World's hegemony, classes were divided into tiers. First were the normal classes, second were hidden and advanced hidden classes, third were unique hidden classes, and fourth were exclusive hidden classes. White Knight's Death Lord belonged to the highest tier, an exclusive hidden class. Normally, someone at his stage couldn't reach that tier. Players only got their first chance to break through at level 29. Even Situji couldn't understand how White Knight had obtained it. Of course, White Knight couldn't explain that it was because of his system substitute, but Situji warned him not to be too happy. The stronger the class, the harder it was to advance. For the Death Lord class to become stronger, it needed to go through enough death. In the near future, a great war would break out in the God-forsaken land. The Divine Dragon Hall, which protected the entire Divine Dragon Empire, hoped that White Knight would go to different countries to advance and conquer their lands. Only then would humanity truly be qualified to step into the Myriad Worlds. White Knight pointed out that the national borders were not yet open. Situji gave him some documents and told him to find a certain person and deliver the letter. That person would give him a treasure capable of crossing national borders. When White Knight saw the photo attached to the document, he was surprised. It was Hai Jian. The system then announced that he had signed a contract with the Divine Dragon Hall. From now on, only he was allowed to advance in other countries. If he violated the contract, he would be hunted down by the Divine Dragon Hall. However, if the Divine Dragon Hall unified the God-forsaken land, the contract would automatically be voided. Situji told him that once he reached the third tier, he would personally recommend White Knight to join the Divine Dragon Hall. He then gave him something. With that item, White Knight would have unhindered access throughout East Sea City. White Knight thanked him. He had received the East Sea Medallion 7. It was a special item personally crafted by City Lord Situji, and only a very limited number existed. Possessing it made him the owner of Courtyard Number 7 in East Sea City. White Knight couldn't hide his excitement. He now owned a house in a tier -1 city,